Hey guys, what is going on? Now, before I continue, I know that a lot of you out there are probably wondering, where is my late reviews roundup for the first half of this year? And guys, do not worry, the video is coming. It'll either be up Saturday night or Sunday night, but just know it is coming. But this is a video that I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, and obviously, if you guys could not tell by the title of this video, I am here to talk about The Last of Us Part 2, specifically spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2, to which, if you guys have not seen Mr. Garrison and I's spoiler-free review of the game, please go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below, but just so that you all know, I loved The Last of Us Part 2. I think it is a phenomenal sequel to one of the best games ever created. Gary didn't love it as much as I did, but he still thought it was a really good, if not a pretty great game. He gave it an 8 out of 10. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I'm still playing the game right now. I'm trying to go with the Platinum Trophy before Ghost of Tsushima comes out because I know that once I start that game, I'm not going to stop playing because that game looks absolutely amazing. And plus, the reviews that have been coming out make me even more excited to play it. Anyway, getting back to The Last of Us Part 2. Before getting on to our spoiler discussion for The Last of Us Part 2, I'm letting you all know right now, spoiler warning, because from here on out, I'm talking nothing but spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2. So if you guys have not played this game, I implore you all, please play this game, even if after you saw the leaks, to which I will get into the leaks. Even if you saw the leaks, I highly suggest you guys play this game because what you saw in those leaks does not even go into the full context of what this game is about. So once more, spoiler warning, and now with that being said, here we go. Now here's the thing, guys. When it comes to The Last of Us Part 2, if you have actually played and beaten the game, not just looked at the story leaks and a couple of cutscenes, this game is 20 to 30 hours long. And if I were to go through every single story beat of this game, oh my god, I'd be here for hours talking about this game. I mean, I could talk about this game for hours anyways because I love this game. So what I'm going to do instead is that I'm going to be talking about 8 specific scenes during this game, starting off with a scene that, you guessed it, it's the scene that caused everybody to go into a riot, and that is the heartbreaking scene when Abby kills Joel. And actually, before I start talking about this scene, I stayed away from everything when it came to this game. The only 2 things that I had seen before I saw one particular thing was that I saw the teaser trailer and I saw the E3 2018 presentation, which I thought was absolutely incredible. But after I saw that, this scene was actually spoiled for me because the dumbass me went onto Twitter, and when this scene was leaked, well, there were a couple of things. There was about 95 minutes of footage, which I actually watched after I beat the game. Yeah, you heard me. But no, I had gone onto Twitter, and anytime that Sony, Naughty Dog, Neil Druckmann, or anybody that was working on the game on any sort of capacity, anytime that they had posted something, there would always be some asshole that would post a screenshot of either Joel's dead body or Abby after she had killed him. Admittedly, after I saw it, I was just like, oh god, no! But thankfully, that did not ruin the impact of the scene because still, during this entire part, I was crying, guys. The moment that Abby shot Joel with the shotgun in his kneecap, I was like, ah! However, I do love the part during this scene where Abby says to Joel, his name, Joel Miller, and she says to him, do you know who I am? And Joel says something along the lines of, now, I don't remember his exact words, but I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing. He says, whatever speech you got cooked up, just get this over with. You know, even in the face of death, Joel is still a badass nonetheless. And then Abby takes that golf club and just... During that entire scene, guys, I was a mess. And then when Ellie comes in, she sees Abby beating Joel to death. And oh my god, I'm getting emotional. Give me a second, guys. Once Abby did the final blow on Joel, I was in Ellie's position. I was just like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. You are done. Hell hath, like, no fear, like a woman scorned. I think that's the term for it. But then when they were trying to kill Ellie, this was me. No, 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 no. Right from that point on, I was all for Ellie's quest for revenge because the moment that she killed Joel, I was just like, Ellie, we're gonna get that bitch. That is until about halfway through the game, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So the next scene that I want to talk about is the scene where Ellie runs into Mel and Owen at the aquarium. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is after Ellie has already killed one of Abby's friends, Nora. She just beats her to a pulp while trying to get information, and clearly The event traumatizes her. When she finally gets to the aquarium where she thinks where Abby is, she only finds Mel and Owen. And here she tries to employ a technique that, if you guys have not played the original Last of Us, I mean, where have you guys been for the past 7 years? But Ellie tries to use a technique that Joel used in the original game, to where, if you guys remember correctly, in the original game, when Joel tried to find Ellie after she was taken captive by David, Joel had tied a guy up in a chair, and he says to him, okay, on this map, mark the spot where that girl is, and your buddy over there, his information better match up, because if you remember correctly, if it didn't match up, but unfortunately, it does not go well for Ellie, and what happens, instead of her getting information on Abby, she ends up killing Mel and Owen, but in self-defense. And honest to God, I'm not gonna lie, I felt sick to my stomach like Ellie did, because like Ellie, I only wanted to kill Abby until, well, the next story beat we're going to talk about here pretty soon. But I don't know if it was just you guys as well, but I certainly thought this as well. After Ellie had killed Mel and Owen, I swear I thought I had heard Joel's voice. Now, to be fair, Joel knew what he was doing the entire time when he was torturing David's henchmen. Ellie, she wasn't so experienced in terms of this. I mean, she knew of the technique that Joel did, but she didn't know what she was doing. Oh boy. Alright, so now it's time to talk about the halfway point of the game, into which The Last of Us Part 2 makes a very, and I mean a very bold decision. After you've played as Ellie, and after like 3 days of being in Seattle, you have used this theater as your safe house. And after Abby has found where Ellie lives, she kills Jesse and she just incapacitates Tommy. And after this whole thing comes to a head, you switch perspective and you now play as Abby. But right when you play as Abby, it goes into the past for a couple of years. Before this scene had gone on, I had a couple of theories in my head as to why Abby had killed Joel. I had about 2 or 3 theories. One of them, which was a long shot, the theory I had, one of them at least, was that Abby was Ellie's mother, to which that would have not been possible because Ellie and Abby are the same age. But the other theory that I had was that Abby was a Firefly. And I was correct on that. But anyways, getting to the scene. So this is in the past where Abby's dad is here along with Owen. And I believe at this time, I think Abby and Owen were maybe dating, or they had kind of were into each other at that point. But they had saved a zebra, if I remember correctly. And after this specific part, they talk about Marlene. And right when I heard Marlene's name, I just thought, wait, do these guys know Marlene? And it turns out in the very next scene, well actually before the very next scene, they mentioned of an immune girl, Ellie, that had arrived at the Firefly Hospital. And then in the very next scene, you see Abby's father talking to Marlene, and I just thought, wait a second, if this is where it's going to go, oh my god. And then they mentioned the whole operation with Ellie, and I just thought, oh no. Then cutting to the next scene, you play as Abby, the hallway comes about, you see the alarms going off, you see the Firefly symbol, you see that door that Joel goes through, and the entire time I kept thinking, oh my god. Abby walks through that door, and it turns out that that doctor that was going to perform the operation to save potentially millions of people was Abby's father. I was correct on one of my theories that Abby was a Firefly, but to think that her dad was the surgeon that was going to make a cure for millions of people, and because of Joel's actions, that cure is no longer gonna happen. When Abby killed Joel, I was all for Ellie's quest for revenge. I wanted to beat Abby to a pulp. But the moment that I saw this scene, I just thought, oh shit. Okay. I mean, I hated this character, and I still kind of do, but I get why she did what she did. I mean, don't get me wrong, was I upset that Joel died? Absolutely. But after seeing this scene, I completely empathized with Abby, 100%. A lot of people were saying that Joel deserved a much more honorable death, a hero's death. Here's the thing, there are no heroes or villains in the world of The Last of Us. The world of The Last of Us has the deepest shade of gray, that there are no heroes or villains, only very flawed characters. While we all understood why Joel saved Ellie, at the same time, Joel's actions caused the deaths of many people, and because of his actions, there is no cure. And for all we know, there is no other doctor that could have performed that operation but Abby's dad. Now, there probably was, but as far as we know, there wasn't. The consequences of Joel's actions resulted in his death. And you know what? As much as it's gonna give me some hate, I understood it. When Abby kills Joel, if you guys noticed, she does not feel any sign of relief. She still felt angry, and I think at that point she actually felt pretty hollow. Oh god, alright, so getting on to the fourth scene that I have to talk about here, and as if this game couldn't emotionally wreck me even more so, I mean, by the end, I was a mess. I might get some dislikes on this, but I don't care because I truly feel this way. When you got to play as Abby, I genuinely loved playing as Abby, and with her story, I ended up connecting with Abby's story a whole lot more than I expected. It was really interesting and really cool seeing the world from her perspective, and plus seeing how the factions of the WLF and the Scars, the Seraphites would go head to head. I thought it was a really interesting new way to breathe new life into this game. Now, I know a lot of people say that it was repetitive, and I can see that take, but for me personally, seeing this whole new perspective in this big world that we only knew from one or two characters' perspective, I thought was really, really cool. This scene, I didn't want to interact with whatsoever. I really wish this was a cutscene, but I understand why this scene was the way it was. We are now at Seattle Day 3 playing as Abby, and you have found out where Ellie is staying at that theater along with Dina, Jesse, and Tommy. She finds Ellie, and you as a player, when you're as Abby, are forced to fight Ellie. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I did not want to fight at all whatsoever. I know that a lot of players, when they were at this scene, were just running at Ellie, wanting Ellie to get her revenge, but the entire time, I was trying to dodge her bullets. And then finally when it came to a head near the end of the scene, Abby's about to kill Ellie. Dina comes and saves Ellie, and Abby is that close from slashing her throat. And she was gonna do the same thing that Ellie did to Mel, which is killing a pregnant lady. And if it wasn't for Lev, thank God for Lev, seriously. When Abby spared Ellie's life, at that point, not only did she spare her life once, but twice. Which I think that people seem to forget. I thought it was just a bold move, and I thought it paid off in spades. So now we're getting into the part of The Last of Us Part 2, to which, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, when I reached the farmhouse part, I thought this was the ending of the game. I thought it was done with, and I thought that Ellie was gonna have a happy ending with Dina. She's a stepmom now to, I think the kid's name was JJ. Yeah, it was named JJ, to which I wonder if the kid's name was Jesse Joel. I'm curious about that. I don't know if they're going to confirm that, but we'll see. Ellie finally has a second chance at a new and loving family, but of course, unfortunately, due to that unfortunate night where Joel died and Ellie saw Joel's death, there came a part to where a lot of when she was at a farmhouse, she's putting her cat away, the door slams, and just getting PTSD from the night that Joel died. We get to a point where Tommy comes in and he visits Dina and Ellie, and he's messed up. And Tommy, it turns out, has been tracking Abby the entire time, and he says to Ellie, I found her. We can go get her finally. You can tell that Ellie doesn't want to do this at first because she has finally found her second chance of having a new family, but unfortunately, due to her PTSD, she can't let it go. And something that just broke my heart even more so is that the next night, I think Ellie has a nightmare, if I remember correctly, and she goes into another room where her guitar is at. She gets her journal, and when you read the journal, what she writes I was crying so much. I don't remember the exact words that she wrote, but she wrote such things as like, I can't eat, I feel hollow, I can't sleep. That night is over like a dark cloud. It's over like it will not let go whatsoever. At that point, unfortunately, Ellie decides to leave the farm. And what hurt me so much even more so was that when she was getting her stuff to go after Abby, Dina wakes up, she sees her come back to bed, she tells her, and then Ellie says to her, pretty much, I can't let this go, I need to do this. And then when Ellie tells Dina that she loves her, and Dina says, prove it.
You think this is easy? For you and for him, I deal with it. I love you. Prove it. Stay.
Oh man, God. First of all, like I said before I continue, the voice acting in this game, all the performances are top notch. Seriously, if this game was a movie, this would deserve all the Oscars. I was heartbroken for Dina at that point because Dina had said to her, am I supposed to wait for you thinking that you're dead? And right there, Dina told her, if you go, I'm not staying for you. I'm not waiting for you. But unfortunately for Ellie, she can't let it go, and she sacrifices a loving family and a second chance because of her lust for revenge. Alright, so getting into the second to final part of my spoiler discussion here, you guys can tell I'm already getting emotional here because this was by far the most gut-wrenching sequence of the entire game for me. So Ellie is going after Abby, and she's in California and Santa Barbara, and she's come across this new gang called the Rattlers. And she finds Abby and Lev on these poles, and they look like they have been broken beyond belief. They look like they have been not only physically broken, but psychologically broken to the T. Ellie saves them at first. They see two boats. Abby and Lev take one of them, and unfortunately this is way after Yara was killed by the WLF, to which, not gonna lie, when Yara was killed by the WLF, when I played as Abby once more, seeing them kill Yara, I brutally murdered every single one of Abby's former people. And when I did that, oh, that felt so good. And that was the part where I was like, you know what? Okay, Abby, I actually like you now, because at that point, she had become the new Joel. And Joel mentioned something at actually the ending of the first Last of Us, saying to Ellie, I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he said, you gotta find something worth fighting for. And after Abby didn't find any relief in killing Joel, she finally found something worth fighting for when it came to Lev and Yara, which I loved. But anyway, so getting into the second to final scene of the game, Ellie and Abby and Lev are going in their separate directions, it looks like, and Ellie is so close to letting them go. She sees a bit of blood, she gets her PTSD, and she says, no, we're fighting. Abby wants no more of this. Like, she is completely done. She says, no, I'm not fighting you. Until she almost kills Lev. And Abby says, fine, but let her go. During this scene, oh my god, this was so hard to play through. During this sequence, how it felt to me anyways, was having Ellie forcing us to fight Abby. I know there's a lot of people that wanted to legitimately kill Abby, but I did not want to kill Abby up at this point, because what it felt like to me anyways is that it felt like I was watching two people that I had grown a big connection with, and I'd like the two of them. I felt like I was watching two people that I really liked killing each other, and every time that Ellie got a couple of good hits, and I was like, no, stop it, and every time that Abby got a couple of good hits, and I said, oh no, stop it, guys. Abby bites Ellie's two fingers off. Oh Jesus, that was gruesome. And then it gets to the final part of the scene, well, near the end of the scene, where Ellie is seconds away from drowning Abby. I mean, she's mere seconds away. She's so close to it, and right when she's about to kill her, she sees the flashback of Joel playing guitar, and she lets Abby go. I was relieved when she let Abby go, and I know a lot of people were pissed that she let Abby go, but there are a couple of reasons why I believe that she let Abby go. First of which being this. Part of the reason why she wanted to go after Abby is not only because she killed Joel, but in that final flashback sequence, while she was still angry at Joel for taking the choice away of making her life meaning something. If you remember at the end of The Last of Us, Joel had told Ellie that there are many other immune people, but they could not come up with a cure, when in fact they could have come up with a cure had Joel not done with what he did. Ellie told Joel that they were done and that they had gone their separate ways, and she was still pissed at him. During this flashback sequence, she told him, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I want to try. Not only did she want to kill Abby for killing just Joel in general, but Abby took wanting to forgive Joel away from Ellie. Couldn't think that she could forgive him. She wanted to try to forgive him. And in that moment, Ellie forgave Abby, even though I imagine it was really freaking hard to do. Though another reason why I think that Ellie let Abby go is because I firmly believe that if Ellie killed Abby in that moment, she would have felt even more hollow. Because like I had mentioned much earlier in this video, when Abby killed Joel, I don't even think for one moment that Abby felt any sigh of relief whatsoever. And if Ellie had done the same thing, she would have felt the exact same way. One other thing I want to add as well, and I don't think she let Abby go for this reason, but I always think of this one thing during Joel's death scene. They were trying to kill Ellie, and Owen says to them, we kill her, we're no better than he was. I think she believed maybe at that point that if she killed Abby, she would not have been better than she was. But right when Abby and Lev left in their boat, I was just relieved, but at the same time was I still in tears? Oh yeah. One of the themes of this game is the cycle of violence and also of revenge. If Ellie had killed Abby at that point, the cycle would have continued. Actually, the cycle of violence, if you guys ask me, started with Joel killing Abby's father, then Abby killed Joel, and then Ellie kills Nora, then Ellie accidentally kills Mel and Owen, and continuing that cycle, Abby kills Jesse, almost killed Tommy, but then there was that one part where Abby was about to kill Dina. When she let Dina go, she ended her cycle of violence right there. And if Ellie had killed Abby in that moment, not only would she have felt more hollow, but the cycle of violence would have continued and she wouldn't have learned anything as a character if she would have killed Abby in that moment too. Obviously, another theme of this game is hate and the lust for revenge. Her hate and her lust for revenge on Abby cost her everything. It cost her her fingers, and it cost her her chance at a second chance with a family, with a loving family. Another theme of this game is empathy, and if you ask me as well, forgiveness. The empathy part is obviously comes in when you play as Abby, figuring out why she's doing what she's doing. But the forgiveness part, if she had not forgiven Abby in that moment, like I mentioned, I'm going to say this once more, she would have become a hollow shell of herself. Getting on to that final cutscene where Ellie and Joel are talking, when Ellie wanted to finally try to forgive Joel for what he had done. Oh, damn, what an amazing scene that was. Obviously, Ellie was still pissed at Joel for doing what he did, but at the same time, Joel did say, if God put me back in that moment again, I would have done that all over again. Because in that moment in the first game, he was saving another daughter that he had grown attached to. And one thing that I do want to talk about with you guys really quick as well is that in the final shot of this game, I want to believe that in that scene that she is walking back to Jackson, because she still has a place in Jackson. I mean, Tommy's still alive, Maria's still alive, that whole community is still alive. And I want to believe that Dina and JJ went back to Jackson, and I want to believe that Ellie went back to find Dina and JJ and reconnect, hopefully. Or maybe she's trying to find redemption after everything that she's done. That final shot is a phenomenal final shot, and I want to give huge congrats to Neil Druckmann, Hallie Gross, to everyone who worked on the game. Alrighty guys, and that is going to do it for my spoiler discussion for The Last of Us Part 2. Now before I continue on and end this video, I do want to mention something to you guys first. In my review of Mr. Garrison on The Last of Us Part 2, after I give this game a 10 out of 10, I mentioned that I needed to digest this game a bit more so. It's been a couple of days since I've beaten the game, and I'm on my second playthrough at the moment, and I love the game even more so. I choked up more during Joel's death. There were a couple of times where I teared up, especially when Ellie sings Take On Me. Beautiful moment, by the way, I should add. Since I have digested and since I've played this game more, I want to tell you all now my complete feelings about this game. Do I think that The Last of Us Part 2 is a masterpiece? Yes. I think that both Part 1 and Part 2 are some of the greatest games ever made. The Last of Us Part 2, in terms of its narrative, like I mentioned in my review of Mr. Garrison, this story is one of the greatest stories that I have ever experienced in a video game. From the themes of hate, revenge, the cycle of violence, empathy, forgiveness, and finally love, which does play a part to an extent as well. I loved every moment in terms of the story. I loved the gameplay, the graphics, the sound design, the music. I loved everything about this game. Now, since I call this game a masterpiece, this has become one of my favorite games. So going from my 10 out of 10 rating, I'm giving this one of my rare 11 out of 10 games. I have not stopped thinking about this game ever since I played it. And doing this spoiler video, thinking about doing this spoiler review has made me love the game even more so. Now here's the thing, and I understand why some people would hate the game because the story has been rather divisive, but for me, I loved everything about this game. So guys, that is going to do it now for real for my spoiler discussion on The Last of Us Part 2. Have you played the game yet, or did you just watch this to hear my thoughts on specific parts during the game? What was your favorite part of the game besides fighting Abby? Come on. I know a lot of you are going to say I just wanted to kill Abby, but for real. Which part of the story was your favorite part of this game? Let me know below. If you guys want to follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I'm also on Snapchat and Stardust. So if you guys want to follow me on all those social media platforms, all the links and the usernames are in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed my spoiler discussion on The Last of Us Part 2. If so, please hit that like button, also subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell whenever a new video of mine goes live. If you guys want to see any of my previous 2 videos, please click either right there or there. And of course, until my next video, I will see you all next time. Time to get back to playing the game.